Oh, can I go ahead?
Okay. Yes, Mr. Samuel, please go ahead.
All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Samuel Ekele, and I'm a DevOps infrastructure engineer here in Beacom Dev Center. This morning, I want to discuss monitoring and optimization in advanced cloud infrastructure, right? So we will discuss um, what monitoring and logging is all about, and we looked at some of the monitoring tools you use to monitor your applications, and then the cloud native tools as well, right? The benefits of monitoring, you looked at data storage and disaster recovery, then the best practice, right? So what is monitoring and logging, right? Monitoring means observing your application or cloud infrastructure in real time, right? You monitor them, you watch them, you observe them to see how they are performing, what they are doing, and in real time. That's what monitoring is about, right? And then logging, on the other hand, is having a record of everything that or every event that happens in the infrastructure, in your infrastructure, right? If say infrastructure, I'm talking about the virtual or cloud infrastructure, right? Like your server, database, and the like, right? So, and your network as well. Knowing event that has happened in your infrastructure over time, collecting those events and aggregating them, right? That's what logging is about. What does logging help you do? Logging help you to trace events in your system. What happened when your system break down? What happens to your system that makes it break down, right? Because you have a recorded event, details recorded of events in your system, you'll be able to trace, you'll be able to go back and check what happened one after the other. Those periods, my applications was down. What led to my application being down at the time? You are going to see the series of events that happened that period, and that will help you to troubleshoot those issues and allow you to um, solve the problem and prevent similar issues from happening again, right? So monitoring in real time, knowing the performance of your applications, knowing what they do at the time, and will help you to predict what will happen in future. You will be able to follow the trend and see if you are going to run out of if you are going to run out of your resources in few days, you know today, and then you take action and resize your infrastructure so that your applications will not will not come down tomorrow. This is what make most of the modern applications that we use today, from your Netflix, your Facebook, and every modern application, big applications that you use today, why they are not always going down is because somebody is actually observing the performance of the infrastructure, underlying infrastructure that powers them, that runs them, and also monitoring what happens in real time. And before issues will happen, they will have already adjusted their infrastructure to accommodate the search in traffic or whatsoever that will lead to the application going down, right? So if you see a DevOps engineer, cloud engineer, site reliability engineer going to work or working on daily basis, you know that the core part of their job is to monitor infrastructure and monitor application. So they'll be able to tell you that if we don't do this, your application will be down in the next couple of weeks or months. All right. This is what we need to do so your application will always be running 247. All right. Why is this important? It ensures optimal performance, identify issues quickly, and aids in troubleshooting, right? What are the monitoring tools available today, right? There are so many of them. There are so many of them. But um, um, DevOps engineers and cloud engineers usually evangelize for the one that they love the most, right? And I personally am not saying one is better than the other. Just choose a particular one that suits your use cases. From this stack, I'm going to mention some of the monitoring tools that comes in a collection, right? One do this and one do that. Put them all together, and they give you a clean and a web formatted data for you to read, right? So the first one is Prometheus. Prometheus is an open source system, right? We use it used to for monitoring. Prometheus is collect time series data, all right? It collects time series data. And in recent time, it has also, they've also integrated alerting system to Prometheus. So you can set a metrics that, okay, if my applications happens to exceed certain metrics, maybe 90% of my server is used, send me a message on Slack, on email, warning me that your application, your server is 90% or 95% usage. Do something about it. So you will go and adjust your server so that you don't run out of server storage. So we have Grafana. Prometheus is actually displaying the raw data, the raw time series data, but the format is not really clean enough for you to understand, to read clearly, right? So Grafana will help you visualize this data from Prometheus. So Grafana and Prometheus work hand in hand. While Prometheus collect the data, Grafana visualize them. So you will just see a matrix in the dashboard. You just see dashboard. And that dashboard, you are seeing 90%. You are just seeing readable, readable metrics, basically. That's what Prometheus. Anybody can just look at a Grafana dashboard and explain the state of your infrastructure at every given point in time. All right. Prometheus uses a data source, right? Grafana uses a data source, different data source. The Prometheus collect the data, right? Collect metrics, right? And Grafana visualize it. And Grafana can also collect metrics from maybe CloudWatch, from any other source, directly from your Kubernetes, Clockstar, and all that, right? And then you visualize it. You can also connect it to several other sources, depends on whatever you want to monitor. And then you visualize, you see them right in your dashboard. We have the ELK stack. ELK stack is also very, very popular, right? ELK, Elasticsearch, Logstash, Kibana, all right? So with this stack, you aggregate your logs, you enable advanced search and visualization, right? The Elasticsearch help you just like your Prometheus that collect time series data, right? You have your Elasticsearch collecting the time series data, Your log stash is collecting your logs. Unlike your Prometheus, your Prometheus stack, you still need something like Prompte to collect your log, and then you store it in something like Loki, right? Loki store your logs. Something collect your log, something that acts like an agent, collect your logs and store it in Loki, and you connect your Grafana to Loki. It means on Grafana dashboard, you can literally see your log as well, right? So that's where you see your log. So in Elastic, in ELK Stash, these three combined will give you visualize search and visualize your logs in one dashboard as well, right? And then we have Datadog. Datadog is a cloud monitoring for infrastructure application performance and log as well, right? But Datadog is not open source. Is is a software as a service platform that you need to pay subscription basically to use them. And in one dashboard, you are literally seeing everything as well, right? So we also have New Relic. New Relic also the same thing. Full stack, you use them for observability, for your infrastructure, for your cloud, for your application and different services. You can connect it to New Relics, and New Relics will you don't New Relic is also a software as a service platform, right? And you don't really need to worry about anything. You just pay subscription for advanced features, or the basic features can also give you certain level of monitoring and observability, right? But if you need advanced features, you can upgrade to a pay versions that will help you monitor your application on the go, right? Then we have Black Exporter. Black Exporter basically helps you to notify you that your endpoint, your website is down or up. Your website is down or up. Once your website is up or your website is down, it sends you a notification that I'm down. If it's up, it sends you a notification that it's up. So you always know the state of your web applications, mobile app, DNS, TCP, anything, any protocol that you want to monitor the uptime, right? You want to monitor the uptime. Blackbox Exporter is what you use, right? And you can integrate Blackboard Exporter with Prometheus, right? Cadvisor is a containerized level monitoring, right? So if you are running a Docker container, you want to know what is happening within the Docker container, is Cadvisor you use to manage, monitor the container level, that particular container, logs and metrics, right? It will tell you how the container is performing, resource constraint of the container, everything about the container to export it to Prometheus. And then we have the Loki. Loki is a log aggregator. While you are exporting your logs from your graph, from your server, from your infrastructure and applications, you are storing it somewhere, just like a database for logs. That's what Loki is about, right? So then you can connect your Loki to your Grafana, so you will see your logs. You can search your logs and see what and do a tracing, right? Trace issues. Now, in a cloud native, what we mean by cloud native is we have different cloud providers like AWS, Azure, GCP, and so many of them, right? On those cloud platforms, they also have their own monitoring solution that monitors their services. It doesn't work on another platform, all right? Unlike the other ones we just mentioned, that you can use it to monitor AWS infrastructure, use it to monitor your Azure, everything, every services you can monitor on those ones. But the cloud native one only worked on their service alone, right? So for CloudWatch only monitors on AWS platform, and then you have Azure Monitor also for Microsoft Azure Cloud Service only, right? And then Google Operations Suite as well, the same thing. So we usually, it was Stackdriver before, but now is GOS, right? Then Hetrix 2. Hetrix 2 is a service is also a software as a service we use to send a notifications when your application, if you have a web application you want to monitor when it goes down, you can register on Hetrix tools and put it there. And whenever your application, just the domain, nothing more, right? Because it's just a GET request. So if you put your domain there, your website URL there or domain there, right? It will monitor whenever your website is down, it sends you a notification that your website is down. So what are the benefits of monitoring and logging? It gives you the real-time insights, right, into how your system is performing. You always know the state of your infrastructure and your system at every given point in time, and also help you to proactively fix issues, right? You identify problems before they even occur. Before the problem affects your application, you have already solved it. That's what logging and monitoring will help you do. And then cost optimization. It helps you save costs as well because you are seeing resource usage of your application. So there is no point over provisioning infrastructure for your small application because you see the particular resource consumptions of your application on your dashboard. So you are seeing the excesses and you are seeing what you can be able to use, the size of infrastructure you can be able to use. Like you don't just provision infrastructure that can maybe that have 360 gig storage and your application is using 5 gig. That means the remaining 355 gig is technically over provision, right? So if you see that kind of a thing, you mean that you need to scale down your infrastructure because your application is only using 5 gig. Maybe you put it for a 10 gig or so, right? Compliance security, log management ensure auditability and security monitoring, right? So it helps you to trace issues. And in terms of audits, you can audit your system and see what happened from January to December, right? Um, Data storage and disaster recovery. Data storage and disaster recovery is part of the advanced optimization in cloud, right? So data storage means the use of recording media, right, to retain data. Just like your computer, where you store your information, you store your data and all that. So basically, that's what data storage is all about, right? So the most prevalent forms of data storage are file storage, block storage, and object storage, with each being ideal for different purposes. So cloud storage, if you are storing your data in the cloud, the advantage of storing your data in the cloud is scalability, right? There is no limit to what you can store in the cloud, and it's durable because you are not the one managing it. The cloud provider is managing it for you, and it can be there for as long as you want, and it's cheap, right? It's also cheap. For time series data like the one of Prometheus and all that, you you store them in low key. And while storing them in low key, there are times when, like your bank, for instance, your bank, your fintechs and the like, they don't joke with logs, they don't joke with data, they don't joke with missing anything because everything they audit their system, maybe monthly or annually, I don't know, right? But maybe every financial year, they will always do an audit. So because the growing numbers of logs, because the logs is going to grow very huge, they are going to store those logs somewhere, right? Maybe on AWS S3 bucket or a Glacier and any cloud storage, right? So you need to store your data for a long term in case of audit as well, right? Disaster recovery. What happens when issues happens in your application? Like, let's say Google. If Google goes down now, what happens, right? So disaster recovery is the process of an organization regaining access and functionality to its IT infrastructure after disaster, whether natural or caused by human action, to minimize disruption and restore operation, right? So as DevOps engineer, DevOps cloud infrastructure engineer and the likes, when we are designing a system, we factor in this disaster recovery stuff, right? If what I'm designing, after you do the architecture of your infrastructure, everything of your applications, and then what comes to your mind is, if something happens to this thing I'm designing, how quickly will I bounce back to normal operation after something happens? Maybe it can be floods, right? It can be natural disaster, maybe fire or something, right? Or you have a cyber attack and all that. How long will it take you to recover or bounce back to where you were when everything was working fine? So this plan, you put them into your application. Why is that important? If you have a good disaster recovery plan, right? It help you ensure continued operation and minimize financial losses, and also your your reputation before your customers will not be damaged, right? So, key aspect of disaster recovery plan, you need to take risk assessment, identifying this potential threats, and then business impact analysis. You need to determine critical functions and process and evaluate the potential impact of disruption on those areas. Recovery strategies, you need to develop a strategy for restoring your applications or your data back to a functional state. Backup replication, you need to have different replicas of your backups of your data, right? It's more like Google is running and we have a copy of Google somewhere. You always need to have different copy of those your application. So if something happened to one, you roll back to the second one, right? So that's one of the aspects of disaster recovery plan. Then testing and drilling. Even when nothing happens, you need to test. You need to break down your system yourself and fall back. Communication plan. Who do you talk to when issues happen in your system? All these plans, you need to put them in place. And then we have types of disaster recovery. Data center disaster recovery. That's when you have your physical infrastructure, right? You have your physical infrastructure and you have a backup of it somewhere. You have a copy of it somewhere. And you have the cloud disaster recovery where you utilize cloud service providers like your cloud storage, S3, maybe cloud storage in GCP and the like, right? To store your the state of your infrastructure or the state of your data, right? Backup and also your backup there. Then network disaster recovery. You ensures the resilience of your network infrastructure and connectivity, right? You need to back up your network configuration setting, right? And whenever something happens, you just use the configuration backup to create a fresh one. It means that you are coming back fresh in less than a minute or two, right? Because you already have the setting configurations backup somewhere. Then you have virtualized disaster recovery. You may not have a physical storage or physical infrastructure to to store your infrastructure or store your data, right? Leverage on cloud service providers and other to store them. And then disaster recovery as a service. There are companies that actually handles this service, right? That you can consult and tell them that, okay, let me focus on the core part of my business and you handles the disaster recovery for me. And then they they do that for you, right? Best practice for this all helps you monitor and optimize your cloud and application uh, um, effectively, right? So the best practice is have a centralized login, right? Collect all your logs from all your applications, from all your infrastructure, and centralize them and store it somewhere, right? It helps you ease of access, right? And you unify them in a view. You know what is happening to this and what is happening to this. In some cases, some applications depends on the other, right? So why one is not performing well is because the other one was not performing well. That's what is affecting the rest and other. So log aggregations will help you unify all these logs and you'll be able to have a full performance of your application at every given point in time. Ultimate alert. You No human being will always be facing on the screen. You will not be on your screen 247. Sometimes you need to go and take your lunch or breakfast or need to attend to something else and all that. So you will not be on your screen 247, right? So for that case, you need to set up an alerting system that will alert you. Maybe in your email, Slacks, anywhere on your maybe on your mobile phone as well, WhatsApp and the like. You can set up all these um, alerts. That whenever your application is done, it send you alert. When you have exceeded certain metrics like 95% in your um infrastructure, like it will send you an alert, right? That way you always get you always be you always let's say you always have time to do other things while you are still monitoring, right? So like with DevOps engineer, most time we monitor the income infrastructure. Like we go to Grafana maybe 4 times a day or 5 times a day, right? Even though in my laptop the window is always open down, but you don't always watching because we already have a alerting system set up. So if any server is down, I will receive alert and immediately go to my Grafana to see and go to my log and see what really caused this downtime in my server. I will see the log, what was happening before the downtime and what happened now. You understand? So I always have a clear knowledge of what exactly made my server crash. Dashboard. You have to create a dashboard. Grafana give you that ability to create dashboard the way that you want to see your events or you want to see the metrics of your infrastructure. You design it the way you want to see it. So there is no limit to how you want to do that. And there also pre-built template that you can reuse. You look at them. Well, this looks beautiful. This interpret the state of my infrastructure very well. This interpret my metrics very well. Then I can copy it and start using it. Simple as that, right? Scale monitoring. Use scalable monitoring system, right? Like Prometheus for large scale. So Prometheus will always be mentioned with when you talked about monitoring because of its scalability. You can use it in enterprise level app solutions. You can use it large scale solution. There is no limit to how you can expand your Prometheus. There is no limit to what you can do with Prometheus. So that's what brings Prometheus to number one on the table when you talk about monitoring. All right. So you barely see a DevOps engineer, talked about monitoring, and Prometheus is not a mention. It's because of the ability to expand it, the ability to the unlimited nature of Prometheus, and also is open source. All right, so it's free to use. host it and use it, right? Data retention. If you are in data retention, if you are in a bank, for instance, you need to retain all data because during audits, you need to recall those data and um, audit them. In conclusion, monitoring and logging are critical for the health and optimization of advanced cloud infrastructure. Choosing the right tool and implementing best practice ensure reliability, cost efficiency, and disaster recovery. Proactive management and continuous improvement is very, very important. Thank you very much for listening to me. Do we have any question? Any question? All right. Nobody is saying anything. Can I ask my question?
Yes, please, you can go ahead with your question.
Okay. So I mentioned Prometheus multiple times, maybe 6 times, right? In this presentation. Does this mean that it's only Prometheus we need to monitor our server or monitor our application? Who can answer that? And nobody even bothered to ask how we connect our application to those monitoring tools we mentioned. Is it you deploy your monitoring tools and they start monitoring your application without really connecting your application to it? So these are expected questions, right? And please, I need somebody to answer my
What was the
question.
question again?
The question is, Prometheus is the monitoring tools. I mentioned that Prometheus is the monitoring tool. So is it only Prometheus? Is the monitoring tool? Is it only Prometheus now deploy and then start monitoring your application or your
No.
server? Okay. What other things? What other things do you need?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I got your question correctly, but if maybe you're asking if Prometheus is the only tool that you use for monitoring, I think there's also
No.
CloudWatch.
No.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
CloudWatch in the cloud native environment for AWS. Yes, if you have your CloudWatch, you have your whole monitoring stack, right? You can
Yeah.
monitor your thing. So if you have Prometheus, is it enough for you to start
No, it's not
monitoring
enough.
your?
Oh no, it's not enough. You still need
It's not enough.
Grafana for the visualization of your
Yeah.
observations and all. Grafana has to be involved too.
Okay. Yes. Grafana, you also forgot that Prometheus have an agent. He's not an agent. It's an agent that also get metrics into Prometheus. What is the agent? Example of you have so many agents, right? Doing different things, right?
The agent is Grafana. You said Grafana is
No.
mostly used with Prometheus, right?
Yes, it's mostly used with Prometheus to visualize, to
Yes.
visualize your metrics. That's what Grafana is doing, right? Prometheus, on the other hand, need an agent to go into that server, to go into that application and export metrics into it, right? So if you are doing for server infrastructure, node exporter is one of the agents that will export metrics into Prometheus, right? So that's how we work. All right. I think we're out of time.
Sorry, what did you call the Prometheus agents?
Node exporter.
Sorry?
We have node exporter. Yes, node exporter.
Node. Okay, node exporter. All right. Thank you.
Yes, node exporter for
Prometheus.
for infrastructure level metrics. That's node exporter. And then we have advisor for container level monitoring. Right? We have alert manager. We have alert manager also that will send alerts whenever something goes wrong anyway, right? So if you set your metrics, the alert manager will help alert you whenever certain things goes wrong or something. So that's how the whole stack work.
So what agents get?
Any question?
Yes, sir. What agents get? Agents get the dashboard to Grafana? Yeah.
What agent gets the dashboard to Grafana? You don't need any agent to get the dashboard to your Grafana. You only need the link to your Prometheus in Grafana. Yes. So the link to your Prometheus is what you use to connect your Grafana to Prometheus. So once you connect them, you start seeing the metrics from Grafana, from Prometheus, and you can now visualize it in Grafana.
Okay. Thank you, sir.